Padre Pio entered the house and stopped just inside the doorway. He didn't say a word. He simply closed his eyes and stood perfectly still for almost a minute. The family was on edge, waiting. When he finally opened his eyes, his first sentence was, "3 of them are here right now. 1 is on the 2nd floor. 2 are in the kitchen." And then he added, "There are 7 more signs that they've been coming here for years." The family freezed. Padre Pio had just walked in. How did he know? What did Padre Pio see that you don't see when you walk into a house? And what are the 7 telltale signs that he would immediately identify? Signs that most people just dismiss as normal coincidences. In the next few minutes, you're going to discover exactly what Padre Pio perceived with his spiritual vision when he entered a house under siege. You'll learn the 7 physical and spiritual signs that he used to diagnose demonic infestation. And by the end, you'll have a complete checklist to identify if your own house is exhibiting these signs right now. But before we continue, you need to understand something critical. Padre Pio didn't just have an opinion about these things. He had vision, literally. He saw demons with the same clarity that you see people. And when he identified these 7 signs, it wasn't theory. It was accurate diagnosis, based on decades of direct spiritual battle. So if you find any of these signs strange or exaggerated, remember this: you live in the visible world. Padre Pio lived simultaneously in both the visible and the invisible realms. And what he saw saved hundreds of families. There's one case that perfectly illustrates Padre Pio's differential vision. Rome, 1959. An elderly woman, Mrs. Davison, went to visit him. She didn't believe in possession or infestation. She thought it was all medieval superstition. But she had come to San Giovanni Rotondo at the request of a friend, just so she could say she'd met the famous priest with the stigmata. When she entered the sacristy for a blessing, Padre Pio looked at her and said immediately, "There's something hidden in the wall of your living room, in the left corner. It's been there for years, and because of that, your house has no peace." Mrs. Davison was stunned. How did he know about the wall? How did he know about the left corner? She tried to play it down. She said she didn't know what he was talking about. Padre Pio insisted, "Mrs. Davison, go home. Break open the wall. In the left corner of the living room, you'll find something. Destroy it immediately, and you'll never have the problems that you've been having." She left intrigued and returned to Rome skeptical but curious. And a week later, she hired a contractor. She asked him to break open that specific corner of the wall. The contractor thought it was strange. The wall looked perfect, but she insisted. When they opened it, they found something wrapped in black cloth, a cloth doll, pierced with needles, human hair tied together, and papers with symbols she didn't recognize. Dark magic. The house had been hers by inheritance. The object had been there before she even moved in. Then she remembered. Ever since she moved into that house, 15 years earlier, she'd had chronic insomnia, nightmares every night, and depression that no doctor could explain. She was taking heavy medication. Nothing completely solved it. She followed Padre Pio's instruction. She burned everything. She called a priest to bless the house, and that very night, she slept without a nightmare. For the first time in 15 years, in a week, the depression began to lift. In a month, she stopped the medication. With medical authorization, the psychiatrist had no explanation for the sudden improvement. She returned to San Giovanni Rotondo 3 months later, this time to give thanks and to ask, "Father, how did you know?" Padre Pio responded with simplicity, "I saw it." 3 demons inhabited that wall. When you entered the sacristy, they came attached to you, like shadows. They weren't in you, they were with you. It's different. When I asked where they came from, they were obliged to reveal it, and they revealed the object too and its location. The woman, now deeply converted, asked a question that Padre Pio answered, and that changed the way she understood spiritual reality. Father, how many people walk around with demons attached to them without knowing it? Padre Pio turned serious. He looked at her with eyes that carried the weight of decades, seeing the invisible. Most people who suffer from unexplained depression, chronic anxiety, persistent insomnia, constant fighting at home, are suffering a spiritual attack. But they think it's psychological. They treat it with medicine. Medicine helps the symptoms, but it doesn't touch the cause. And the cause is spiritual. That's why they never heal completely. They treat the fever, but ignore the infection. That response from Padre Pio is key to understanding why these 7 signs are so important. Because most people who have them don't know. They're spiritual signs. They think it's bad luck, coincidence, electrical problems, psychological issues, and they never treat the root cause. San Giovanni Rotondo, autumn of 1961. The Esposito family. Mark was a lawyer, a cultured man, educated at an Ivy League school. His wife, Jessica, was a music teacher. They had an 8-year-old son, Chris. They lived in a large house in a good location, recently renovated. Life seemed perfect. But there was something wrong that they couldn't explain. Chris had night terrors. He would wake up screaming, saying he saw people in his room. Doctors diagnosed night terrors. They medicated him. It didn't help. Jessica began to feel an inexplicable weight every time she entered her son's room, as if the air was dense in there. Mark, a skeptic, attributed it all to stress, until things started moving. Small things would disappear and reappear in strange places. Jessica's wedding ring disappeared from the nightstand and reappeared inside a shoe in the closet. Mark's watch disappeared from the table and reappeared, buried in a flower pot. Chris said his toys moved by themselves at night. Mark still tried to rationalize it, but when the crucifix in the living room fell 3 times in the same week, always exactly at 3 in the morning, he began to question things. Jessica, a practicing Catholic, suggested seeking out Padre Pio. Mark resisted. He was a man of law, of logic. He didn't believe in possession or infestation. But when Chris began to refuse to enter his own room, when he started sleeping in the living room with all the lights on, Mark caved. They traveled to San Giovanni Rotondo on a Thursday. They arrived unannounced and waited for hours. When they finally managed to speak with Padre Pio, Mark prepared a rational speech explaining the situation. He didn't even get to pronounce 3 sentences. Padre Pio interrupted him. "Did you renovate the house recently?" Mark hesitated. "Yes, 6 months ago. Complete renovation." Padre Pio nodded slowly. "And during the renovation, did you knock down any walls, change the structure?" Mark confirmed it. They had knocked down a wall in Chris's room to enlarge the space. Padre Pio closed his eyes. He remained silent for long seconds. When he opened them, he looked directly at Mark. "I need to visit the house." Mark didn't expect that. Padre Pio rarely left the monastery due to his fragile health, but he insisted, and 3 days later, on a Sunday morning, Padre Pio arrived at the Davisons' house accompanied by 2 friars. What happened during that visit was documented by one of the accompanying friars. Padre Pio entered the house, stopped right inside the entrance, and closed his eyes. He stood perfectly still. The family waited, completely bewildered. When he opened his eyes, Padre Pio said, "3 of them are here right now. One on the second floor, two in the kitchen. And he walked straight to Chris's room without needing directions. He entered the room, looked around, and pointed to the corner where the wardrobe stood. There, ever since you knocked down that wall, that's become an entry point. Before, that wall offered protection. When you broke through it, you opened a doorway. Mark was confused. How is it an entry point? Padre Pio explained patiently. Old houses have a spiritual geography. Certain walls were built, even if unconsciously, in places that block negative spiritual flows. When you tear down those walls without spiritual protection, you can open breaches, and entities that were contained enter. He walked around the room, touching the walls, murmuring prayers. Then he turned to Jessica. How many of the 7 signs have you already noticed? Jessica didn't understand. What signs? Padre Pio began to list them, and with each sign he described, the family recognized it with chills. First sign, localized cold spots. There's a specific place in the house that's always colder than the rest, even without a physical explanation. It could be a corner of a room, a hallway, a staircase. The cold doesn't come from the air conditioning or ventilation. It comes from a spiritual presence. Demons don't generate heat. They absorb it. Where they dwell, there's a drop in temperature. Jessica confirmed. The corner of Chris's room, exactly where Padre Pio pointed, was always freezing, even with the heater on. Padre Pio continued. Second sign, animals avoid it. If you have a dog or cat, observe. Is there a place in the house that they refuse to enter, any room that they run through? Or bark at nothing? Animals see what humans don't see. They perceive spiritual presence before any physical symptoms. Mark remembered. The family dog, who used to sleep with Chris, had started refusing to enter the room 6 months ago, exactly when the renovation was finished. Third sign, erratic electronics. Light bulbs that flicker for no reason. Appliances that turn on and off by themselves. Clocks that always stop at the same time. Interference on the radio or TV. Demonic activity generates an irregular electromagnetic field. It's not a technical fault. It's a spiritual signature. Chris said that the light bulb in his room flickered every night, and the wall clock always stopped at 3 in the morning. Jessica had thought it was a defect. She replaced the bulb 3 times. It kept flickering. Padre Pio nodded. 3 in the morning, the devil's hour. The opposite of 3 in the afternoon, the hour of mercy. Demons like to mark territory with times. It's their mockery. Fourth sign, odors without a source. Smell of sulfur, smell of rot, smell of smoke without fire. Or, curiously, strong and excessively sweet perfume, almost nauseating. These fragrances appear and disappear without logic. They arise in a room, vanish in seconds. This is an olfactory manifestation of a demonic presence. Jessica's eyes widened. The previous week, she had smelled a strong odor of rotting flowers in Chris's room. She looked for dead plants, trash, anything, nothing. The smell disappeared on its own after 10 minutes. Fifth sign, collective insomnia and nightmares. It's not one person having an occasional nightmare. It's the whole family having sleep disturbances at the same time. Recurring nightmares with similar themes. Feeling of weight on the chest upon waking. Frequent sleep paralysis. When demons inhabit a space, they attack sleep because that's when humans are most vulnerable. Mark admitted. All 3 of them had been sleeping badly for months. Chris had nightmares about shadowy figures. Jessica woke up with a feeling of suffocation. Mark himself, who had never had a nightmare in his life, started dreaming about falls and persecutions. Sixth sign, disproportionate discord, fights that arise out of nowhere, outbursts of anger for no reason. Family members who have always gotten along well start to attack each other verbally. Small irritations turn into wars. This is the demon of division at work. They feed on conflict. The more the family fights, the stronger they become. Jessica lowered her head. She and Mark had fought more in the last 6 months than in their 10 years of marriage, over insignificant things. They argued over which program to watch, over how to arrange the dishes. Nonsense that escalated into deep offenses, and the seventh sign, the most subtle but the most confirming. Padre Pio paused for a long moment before continuing. Spiritual refusal. The family stops praying, stops going to church, stops talking about God, and when they try, they feel a strong internal resistance, a mental voice that says they don't need to, that they're busy, that they can pray later. This is the clearest sign of advanced infestation. Because demons know that prayer is the only thing that truly expels them, so they create a mental block to prevent it. Mark felt a tightness in his chest. He had stopped going to church 5 months ago. Jessica tried to take him, but he always made an excuse. And Chris, who adored catechism, started complaining that it was boring. Padre Pio looked at the three of them. You have all 7 signs, complete infestation, but it hasn't reached possession yet. It's in the environment, not in the people, and that we can reverse today. Mark, who had entered the experience as a skeptic, was now trembling. What do we do, Padre? Padre Pio took a bottle of holy water and a rosary from his habit. First, we'll mark the territory. Then, we'll seal it. And then, we'll cast them out. He started with Chris's room, sprinkling holy water in every corner, especially in the cold spot he had identified. As he sprinkled, he prayed aloud in Latin, prayers of exorcism. The temperature of the room changed visibly. The air became lighter. Then he went to each room in the house. Kitchen, living room, hallways, bathrooms. In each one, the same action. Holy water's prayer, a marking of spiritual territory. When he arrived at the staircase that led to the 2nd floor, Padre Pio stopped. He looked up and said in a firm voice, "In the name of Jesus Christ, this house no longer belongs to you. Leave now. You have no more authority here." At that exact moment, everyone present felt something. A wind that didn't come from a window. A pressure that released, as if something heavy had been removed from the environment. Chris, who was holding his mother's hand, said, "They're gone. I felt them going." Padre Pio descended the stairs and handed the rosary to Jessica. "Pray this every night as a family for 40 days. Don't skip a day, and don't tear down any more walls without consulting a priest for a preventative blessing. Spiritual geography is real. Respect it." He left the house. Before getting into the car, he turned to Mark. "The 7 signs. I taught them to you. Teach them to others. So many families suffer without knowing what's happening. Knowledge is protection." In the following days, the transformation was immediate. Chris was able to sleep in his room again without fear. The dog came in and lay on the bed as before. The fighting stopped. Jessica and Mark started talking to each other lovingly again. And on Sunday, the 3 of them went to Mass together. For the first time in months, Mark, now completely convinced, wrote a letter to Padre Pio 3 weeks later. He described the peace that had returned. He gave his thanks. And he asked for permission to share the 7 signs with others. Padre Pio responded, "Share them, but always with the solution. Don't just scare people. Teach them how to cast it out." And it wasn't just the Davison family. There's another documented case that reveals a crucial detail about the 7 signs. Milan, spring of 1964. Padre Pio received urgent correspondence from a family he had helped years before. The letter said, "The signs have returned. All 7 of them. We did the cleansing you taught us. It worked for 2 years, but now they're back. What did we do wrong?" Padre Pio responded with a long letter. And in that letter, he revealed something that most people don't know. The 7 signs have an order of appearance. They don't all appear at once. They manifest progressively. And if you know the order, you can intercept them in the initial stage before it reaches full infestation. First comes sign 7, spiritual refusal. The family stops praying without even realizing it. This is the initial breach. When spiritual protection falls, the door opens. Then comes sign 6, discord. Arguments increase. The atmosphere of the house changes. This is the demon entering and testing the territory. Then appears sign 5, nightmares, nighttime attack, attempt to terrorize and weaken. Then sign 4, odors, olfactory manifestation. The demon is more confident, starts to mark its physical presence, followed by sign 3, electronics, interference in the physical environment, control over objects. Then sign 2, animals avoid. The presence is so strong that even animals clearly perceive it. And finally, sign 1, localized cold. This is the last to appear, because it means the demon has already chosen a fixed point of habitation. It's not just visiting, it's living there. Padre Pio wrote, "If you notice sign 7, act immediately, return to prayer. If you wait until it reaches sign 1, the battle will be much more difficult. Prevention is easier than expulsion." The family from Milan had made a fatal mistake. After the initial cleansing, they relaxed. They stopped the daily rosary before the 40 days were up. They thought 15 days was enough, and the breach reopened. Sign 7 returned, then sign 6, and in 6 months, all 7 were back. Padre Pio was direct. Finish the 40 days now. There is no spiritual shortcut. 40 days is the time it takes to seal it completely. Less than that, the door remains ajar. This detail is crucial. When you go to apply the cleansing protocol that I'm going to teach you, don't stop in the middle. Many people do 3 weeks of rosary, feel improvement, and stop. Fatal error. The demon was waiting for you to relax. Complete the 40. Without exception, and you have just received what Mark received, the 7 signs that Padre Pio identified in houses under spiritual attack. Now, the question is, how many of these signs do you have in your house right now? Let's recap carefully, because each sign has important nuances. Sign 1, localized cold. It's not the entire house cold. It's a specific point. It could be a corner, it could be a hallway, it could be under a staircase. Always the same place, always colder, and you can verify this physically. Take a thermometer, measure the temperature of that point versus other points in the house. If there is a difference of 5 degrees or more, with no physical explanation, pay attention. Padre Pio taught, demons exist in a low vibrational frequency. Low vibration generates low temperature. Where there is prolonged demonic presence, there is an absorption of heat. Sign 2, animals avoid. This is a simple test. If you have a pet, observe. Does your dog or cat enter all the rooms freely, or is there any room that they run past, bark at nothing, or simply refuse to enter? Animals don't have spiritual blocks like humans. They see auras, they see energy, they see entities. If your animal consistently avoids a space, don't ignore it. Investigate. Padre Pio had a dog at the monastery. Once, a visitor brought an object as a gift. The dog barked furiously at the object, Padre Pio ordered it to be exorcised. It was later discovered that the object had been used in a dark magic ritual. The dog knew. Sign 3. Unregulated electronics. Pay attention here. It's not an isolated defect. It's a pattern. Light bulbs that flicker, always at the same time. TV that turns on by itself, always to the same channel. Radio that has interference only in one room. Clock that always stops. At 3 a.m. or 3 p.m., Padre Pio explained, demonic activity interferes with the electromagnetic field, just as a storm causes interference in a radio signal. Demonic presence causes interference in electrical appliances, and demons like patterns. They are obsessive, so the phenomena repeat at the same time, in the same place. If you have an electronic with an inexplicable defect that a technician can't fix, it could be spiritual. Sign 4. Odors without a source. This is treacherous because it can be subtle. It doesn't have to be an unbearable smell. It could be an excessively sweet perfume. It could be the smell of flowers that don't exist in the house. It could be the smell of cigarette smoke when nobody smokes. It could be a metallic smell, or the smell of wet earth on a dry day. The pattern is, it arises from nowhere, without an identifiable source, and disappears quickly. Padre Pio warned, demons can present themselves with pleasant fragrances to deceive. Not everything that smells good is divine. Discriminate. If the smell is accompanied by discomfort, fear, or spiritual heaviness, even if it's a pleasant perfume, it's a demonic manifestation. Sign 5, insomnia and collective nightmares. Here, the key word is collective. It's not just you having a nightmare, it's the entire family. And the nightmares have similar themes: shadows, falls, persecution, suffocation, sleep paralysis, where you wake up but can't move and see something in the room. Padre Pio taught, demons attack sleep because during sleep the mind's guard drops. It's easier to implant fear, terror, false memories, and when the entire family doesn't sleep well, the house descends into chaos. Tired people argue more, sin more, pray less. It's a strategy of attrition. If your entire house is sleeping badly at the same time, without a medical cause, it's spiritual. Sign number 6, disproportionate discord. This one is subtle because everyone fights sometimes. But the pattern here is disproportionality. The fight starts over a crumb on the floor and ends in deep offense. The person who never shouted shouts. The couple who always got along suddenly can't stand each other's presence. Siblings who were close begin to attack each other. And there's another detail. The fights happen more often in moments that should be peaceful. After church, after prayer, after a good family moment. As if something wants to destroy any spiritual advancement. Padre Pio used to say, a demon of division is one of the most common in houses. It feeds on conflict. The more you fight, the more it grows. And it's an expert at taking small irritations and amplifying them. It whispers thoughts. She did that on purpose. He doesn't respect you. You deserve better. And the person thinks these are their own thoughts, but they're external suggestions. And finally, sign 7, spiritual refusal, the most dangerous. The family stops praying and thinks it's by their own choice, but it's not. It's a block. Every time they think about praying, a distraction arises. Every time they go to church, something unexpected happens. Every time they pick up the Bible, they get sleepy. Every time someone mentions God, you feel irritation. Padre Pio was adamant. This is advanced infestation, because the demon knows that prayer is the only thing that truly expels it. So it creates a progressive block. First you skip a rosary, then you skip church, then you stop praying before meals, and in 6 months, you're Catholic in name only, with no spiritual life. And then the house becomes totally vulnerable. Now, if you've identified one or more of these signs, don't panic, take action. But before I teach the cleansing protocol, I need to warn you about 7 fatal mistakes that people make when they discover these signs, mistakes that worsen the situation instead of resolving it. Mistake number 1, investigating alone, without spiritual protection. You identify the signs and decide to do a test. You go to a cold spot with a recorder to capture voices. You put a camera in the bedroom to film paranormal activity. You use a Ouija board to try to communicate. This is spiritual suicide. You're inviting interaction. Padre Pio was adamant. Never investigate, identify and expel. Investigation is the job of an authorized exorcist. A layperson investigating opens the door to possession. Mistake number 2, telling the wrong people. You identify 5 signs and go telling everyone. Skeptical friends will ridicule you. They'll say it's paranoia, that it's psychological, that you're exaggerating, and this incredulity weakens your determination to act. Worse, some people will suggest the wrong solutions, psychics, spiritualists, superstitions, and then you trade one problem for another, or worsen the situation by bringing in more demons. Padre Pio taught, tell only a trusted priest, your confessor, or a mature Catholic who can pray with you. Don't turn infestation into gossip. Mistake number 3, trying to expel with anger. You identify the signs, get furious, and start shouting orders at the demon. Get out of my house. I command you to leave. You have no power here. It seems courageous, but if you don't have real spiritual authority, founded on a life of grace and prayer, the demon laughs and may attack with more force. Expulsion isn't about volume. It's about spiritual authority, and authority comes from holiness, not from bravado. Padre Pio expelled demons with a calm voice, because the authority was in the presence of Christ in him, not in his tone of voice. Mistake number 4, doing a partial cleansing. You throw holy water in one room and think you've solved it, or you only bless the problematic room. But the demon isn't confined to one room. It circulates. The cleansing must be complete. The whole house, every room, every corner. If you clean half of it, the demon takes refuge in the uncleaned half and comes back later. Padre Pio insisted, spiritual cleansing is a complete job, or useless. There's no in-between. Mistake number 5, using objects without a blessing. You buy a new rosary at the Catholic store and think you can use it directly to pray against the demon, or you take regular water and call it holy, or you use a decorative, unblessed crucifix. Sacramental objects only have spiritual power when blessed by a priest. Regular water is regular water. Holy water is a spiritual weapon. A rosary without a blessing is a necklace. A blessed rosary is a shield. Don't improvise. Use only objects formally blessed by a priest. Mistake number 6, stopping when it gets better. This was the mistake of the family from Milan. You do a week of rosaries, the house improves, the signs diminish, and you stop. Fatal mistake. Improvement is not a cure, it's a pause. The expelled demon is circling around, waiting for an opening to return. And if you stop the protocol before 40 days, the opening remains. The demon returns with reinforcements, and the second infestation is worse than the first. Jesus warned about this literally. When an unclean spirit leaves and returns, it brings 7 worse ones. Finish the protocol, always. And mistake number 7, not investigating the root cause. You clean the house, expel the demon, but don't discover how the door was opened, so the door remains open, and the demon returns through the same entrance. The root cause could be a contaminated object. It could be a renovation that broke a protective wall. It could be an unconfessed habitual sin. It could be someone in the house involved with the occult. It could be a generational curse. Identify the cause and close that door specifically. Otherwise, you're just bailing water from a sinking boat. Padre Pio used to say, the demon is persistent, but predictable. It always uses the same doors. Discover which door it used and seal that door. Then the cleansing becomes permanent. Now, the complete protocol for spiritual cleansing. 9 steps that Padre Pio left documented. It's not complicated, it's laborious, but it works. You've just received knowledge that few people have. Padre Pio's vision of houses attacked by spirits, the 7 signs that he identified, and the protocol to cleanse them. But this knowledge came at a cost. Producing videos like this requires deep research, original letters from Padre Pio, testimonies from the friars who accompanied him, documents from the monastery archive, and channels that speak these truths face resistance. The algorithm gets blocked, monetization drops, spiritual attacks too, because the enemy doesn't want you to know this. This is where super thanks comes in. You've just discovered the 7 signs. That could save your family from years of torment. If this information touched you, if you recognized signs in your house, if you felt that this arrived at the right moment, consider using the super thanks down below. It's not just money, it's you saying, these revelations need to continue. More families need to know. I want this knowledge to reach those who suffer without understanding what's happening. When you click on that golden heart, you finance the next research, the next video, the next family that will be alerted before the infestation becomes possession. You are now a guardian of this knowledge, part of the mission that Padre Pio entrusted to us. Teach the signs. Don't let families suffer in ignorance. Padre Pio used to say, whoever spreads spiritual truth receives angelic protection. Be a part of this. Use the Super Thanks feature. Keep this revelation alive and accessible. Now, for the practical part, the complete spiritual cleansing protocol. Step 1. Confirmation. Verify how many of the 7 signs you have. If you have 3 or more, there is an infestation. If you have 6 or 7, it's urgent. Step 2. Confession. Before any deep spiritual cleansing, you need to be in a state of grace. Go to confession. Unconfessed sin is an open breach. The devil has legal authority over unconfessed areas of your life. Confess everything. Clear the internal spiritual ground first. Step 3. A 24-hour fast. Choose a day. Fast from everything except bread and water. Fasting weakens demonic influence. Demons feed on sensory gratification. When you deny the body, you strengthen the spirit. Step 4. Holy water in every room. The day after your fast, get holy water. Padre Pio specifically said, use at least a pint for a small house, a quart for a medium house, half a gallon for a large house. Don't skimp on the holy water in spiritual battle. Start at the main entrance, dip your fingers in the holy water, make the sign of the cross on the door, and declare in a loud voice, in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. This entrance is sealed. No evil spirit is permitted to cross this threshold. This house belongs to Jesus Christ. Then go to each room. Sprinkle holy water in the four corners of the room. Form a cross on the floor with holy water, and sprinkle generously in specific areas, dark corners, under beds, inside closets, behind doors, especially in the spots that you identified with the 7 signs. Cold spot, sprinkle heavily there. Place that an animal avoids, sprinkle double. Where electronics malfunction, sprinkle and declare authority. Padre Pio taught a specific declaration for each room. In the name of Jesus Christ, Son of the living God, who died and rose again, I reclaim this space. Every spirit that does not confess Jesus as Lord must depart now and never return. Previous spiritual markings are cancelled. This house is territory consecrated to Christ. Repeat this declaration in a firm voice in each room. A firm voice is not a shout, it's clarity and conviction. You are exercising authority delegated by Christ to every baptized person. Use it. Step 5. Crosses and medals. Place a blessed crucifix at each entrance. Front door, bedroom doors, main windows, and if possible, place a Saint Benedict medal buried in the center of the house or under the main rug. This creates a spiritual anchor. Step 6. Daily rosary as a family for 40 days. This is not optional. It's mandatory to seal the cleansing. 40 days is a biblical period of purification and transformation. Pray the complete rosary every day as a family if possible. Alone if you live alone, but pray it completely. The 5 mysteries. Padre Pio gave specific instructions for this cleansing rosary. It's not a common rosary of devotion, it's a rosary of spiritual battle. The difference is in the intention. Before you begin, declare the intention, Virgin Mary, Mother of God. We offer this rosary for the complete liberation of this house from all demonic influence. We ask for your powerful intercession to seal every spiritual breach and maintain permanent protection over our family. And Padre Pio recommended adding at the end of each decade the ejaculation, Saint Michael, the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil. If possible, pray the rosary walking through the house, 1 mystery in each room. This consecrates the space while you pray. But if the house is small, or if you live alone, you can pray in a fixed place. The important thing is to complete the 5 mysteries every day for 40 consecutive days, and pay attention. If you skip a day, restart the count. 40 consecutive days, not 40 times. Consecutive. Padre Pio was inflexible about this, because the number 40 has deep spiritual meaning. Moses on the mountain, 40 days. Jesus in the desert, 40 days. The flood, 40 days. From resurrection to ascension, 40 days. It's a time of complete transformation. Respect it. Step 7. Breaking contaminated objects. If you have objects that came from a dubious source, especially if they came from people who practice the occult, if they came from a thrift store or auction without you knowing the history, and if these objects correspond with the beginning of the problems, remove them, break them, and throw them away. Don't donate them, destroy them. Padre Pio had a specific list of objects that frequently carry spiritual contamination. Pay attention because you may have some of these at home without knowing the risk. First, statues and images of unknown origin. Especially if they came from a country with a strong tradition of occultism or paganism, Bali, Haiti, certain regions of Africa or Asia. These objects may have been consecrated to pagan or demonic entities. Even if they are decoratively beautiful, if you don't know the spiritual origin, remove them. Second, heirloom jewelry with a problematic history. A ring that belonged to a relative who practiced spiritualism. A necklace that came from an ancestor involved in secret societies. Objects of value can carry generational curses. If things have gotten worse since you started wearing this jewelry, investigate. You may need to destroy it, even if it's gold. Third, occult books, grimoires, magic books, tarot cards, even if you bought them just out of curiosity and never used them, the presence of these books in the house is an invitation. Padre Pio said, "A book of spells is not literature, it's a portal. Burn it." Fourth, divination instruments, Ouija board, tarot cards, pendulum, crystal ball. Even if you received them as a gift and never used them, even if they are stored in the back of the closet, destroy them. Don't sell them. Don't donate them. You don't pass the curse on. You destroy it. Fifth, objects from Afro-Brazilian religions or occultism, guides, talismans, ribbons tied by a spiritual leader, consecrated herbs, ritual vases, images of entities. If you have converted or found this in a house you bought, don't try to bless them, destroy them. These objects were consecrated to demons by name. A blessing does not reverse demonic consecration, only destruction does. And sixth, objects that came from problematic ex-relationships. Gifts from an ex who practiced the occult. Objects that came from a turbulent breakup with a lot of hatred involved. It may seem silly, but objects carry spiritual memory. If the relationship ended in a curse or intense hatred, the object can be a vehicle. Padre Pio taught, when in doubt, destroy. Better to lose a material object than to keep a spiritual portal open. God doesn't demand from you attachment to things. He demands from you the protection of your family. Step 8. Spiritual geography repair. If you've renovated your house and the problems started afterward, call a priest to specifically bless the renovated areas. Walls that were torn down, rooms that were expanded. Request a specific blessing to seal any spiritual breaches. And step 9. Permanent vigilance. After the cleansing, do not relax. An expelled demon will try to return. Jesus warned us, when an unclean spirit leaves a person, it wanders through waterless places seeking rest and finding none. It says, "I will return to my house from which I came," and when it comes, it finds it empty, swept, and put in order, but without protection. Then it goes and brings with it 7 other spirits, more evil than itself, and they enter and dwell there. So keep the house spiritually inhabited, daily prayer, weekly mass, the sacraments, monthly holy water, a life of grace. This maintains active protection. Padre Pio guaranteed, if you follow these 9 steps with seriousness, your house will be freed. No matter how deep the infestation, 9 steps, 40 days, and peace returns. But there's a final detail that few know. If after doing all of this, you still feel one of the 7 signs persisting, especially sign 7, which is spiritual rejection, seek out an exorcist. There may be something deeper. There may be a generational curse. There may be a hidden object you haven't identified. There may be a pact that someone in the family made without your knowledge. In these cases, priestly authority is necessary, a formal exorcism, but this is rare. In most cases, the 9 steps resolve the issue. This is the vision that Padre Pio had. This is the revelation that he left us, the 7 signs of a house under siege by spirits, and the cleansing protocol that saved hundreds of families. Now you know. And knowledge brings responsibility. You can ignore it and continue suffering, or you can obey and be freed. The choice is yours. But remember, Padre Pio saw what you don't see, and if he warned about these signs, it's because they are real and because the solution works. How many of the 7 signs do you have in your house right now? Write the number in the comments. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7. And tell us which one scared you the most. Was it the localized cold spots? Were they the collective nightmares? Was it the spiritual rejection, comment honestly, and tag that person you know who is going through this and needs to see this video urgently. Your comment could save an entire family today.